Catastrophic thinking isn't a personal flaw, and it's not a sign of weakness. Catastrophic thinking is your brain's survival system working overtime. Hey friend, welcome back to the Art of Managing Your Brain podcast. I'm Dr. Charlie Hornis, and today we are tackling a mental spiral that so many of us are all too familiar with. We're going to talk about catastrophic thinking. Yeah, you know this one, that relentless what if loop that starts with a single worry and escalates into a full-blown disaster movie in your mind. It goes something like this. Let me know if this sounds familiar. What if I mess up this blank? What if they hate it? What if I lose my job over it? Does any of this sound familiar? This is catastrophic thinking. When your brain defaults to the absolute worst case scenario, leaving you feeling paralyzed, anxious, and completely overwhelmed. But guess what? Catastrophic thinking isn't a personal flaw, and it's not a sign of weakness. Catastrophic thinking is your brain's survival system working overtime, combined with social conditioning, past experiences, and even your unique personality wiring. Yeah, it really packs a punch. There's a lot involved in why we do this and how to stop it. So today we're going to unpack the why behind catastrophic thinking, and most importantly, how you disrupt it. That's right. We are disruptors. So we're going to explore why your brain gravitates towards worst case scenarios, the science behind rumination and overthinking, and thought work tools that rewrite those fear-based stories. We're also going to provide actionable strategies to move from fear to fiery and fierce. So by the end of this episode, you'll not only understand what's happening in your brain, but you'll walk away with tools to challenge those spirals, calm your mind, and focus on the possibilities that fear so often hides. So if you are ready to learn all about catastrophic thinking, then this is your show. Let's go. I'm Dr. Charlie Hornis, highly anxious people pleaser turned master certified professional life coach. Learning to manage my brain was so life-changing for me that I got certified so that I could teach these incredible evidence-based practices to you. Are you ready for massive change? Let's go. Now let's start by unpacking the neuroscience behind catastrophic thinking, because it's not just a bad habit. It's how your brain has evolved over time. This is our quadrant 4, and it's the bottom right corner of our fear square. So if you go back and listen to last week, we really unpacked the 4 squares, but I really focus on catastrophic thinking because it's how your brain has evolved to keep you safe. That's what we addressed last week, and this is only getting worse because the fear that lives in quadrant 4 is the really big one. Unfortunately, in today's world, all of these ancient survival systems don't work. They actually cause a lot more trouble than they're supposed to. And they lead to stuff like overthinking, inaction, and absolute mental and physical exhaustion. Before we get started, I've got 2 quick asks for you. First, if you find this podcast remotely helpful, could you take 30 seconds to leave us a quick review or share this with a friend or on your feed? This feedback amplifies our message, and it helps us help other ambitious women just like you and me discover the kinds of tools that we need to feel even more equipped so we can be ready for success out there in this just bonkers world. And second, If you haven't already taken my Thought Saboteur quiz, run over there and grab that now. You can get it at charliehorniscoaching.com/quiz. It's a free quiz and it'll help you identify the thought patterns that might be sabotaging your confidence and your success. You can find the link in the show notes. And if this episode resonates, please share this with a friend. Together, we can change the way women show up and their voices heard in the workplace. Something that I talked about a couple weeks ago is called the brain's negativity bias. So why worst case scenarios feel so automatic? The negative bias is your brain's tendency to prioritize negative information over positive or neutral data. This is designed to help us avoid threats and attacks. So we're going to talk about the role of hyperconnectivity and rumination within the ideas around catastrophic thinking. Now, rumination is when you're up at night, for example, and you cannot stop running a scenario over and over in your head. And you're like, stop it. And you can't sleep. And then you think about something else, or you breathe or count sheep or say your prayers. And then all of a sudden there you go thinking of it again. That's ruminating. Ruminating steals so much from you. It steals your time. It steals your peace. It steals your sleep. Ruminating is part of a vicious cycle that really pushes you towards that threshold that throws you over into emotional dysregulation. Because when you're losing sleep after you're already dealing with difficult situations, they just get worse. Because now you're not sleeping well and you're constantly dealing with these thoughts running on loop in your head. Not helpful. It just makes it worse. It steals your sleep. It steals your time and your words, and it just makes things worse. That's why this is so important to talk about, and that's why I'm doing a whole episode on this quadrant 4. So the more you think about these scenarios, the stronger the connection becomes, making it even harder and harder to break free. So what does this look like? Step 1 would be neutralizing the circumstance. So start by separating the fact that you're dealing with from the story your brain has created around it. So there are facts, neutral facts that can be proven in a court of law. And then there is the story around it, that vivid, in technicolor, imaginary story that your brain has created around the circumstance. So an example would be a circumstance. And if we're running, we put this in the C line. I have a presentation next week. What is the thought that this idea creates within us? So then we put that in our thought line, our T line. So the example would be, this will be a disaster and I'll embarrass myself. All right. Well, when I think that, I feel terrible. Labeling the circumstance as neutral. When we do this, it engages that logical thinking part of our brain, interrupting the emotional spiral. So the very first step when we identify our C line, our circumstance, and we identify it as neutral fact, that already begins to interrupt the emotional spiral because we've taken all emotion and all imagination out the circumstance. The second step, once we've identified the thought, we have to reframe the thought into something that serves us better. This is our T line, the second line of the model. And again, you can always get that on my website at the very bottom. I think I've got a link down there for the interactive workbook. So you replace the catastrophic thought with one that feels both believable and true and makes you feel better. So instead of thinking, what if I fail? That's our catastrophic thought. We can reframe it as, what if I succeed beyond my wildest dreams? What if? Why does it have to be failure? What if you knock it out of the park? What if you start to dream the biggest dreams you can possibly dream? What if you are so amazing at this So we have to engage the thought ladder here. So maybe we can, if we like that thought, what if I succeed beyond my wildest dreams? I have to think about, well, what do I have to do in order to feel the way that thought makes me feel? So we can incrementally change our narrative. We can say something instead of, what if I fail? Like, it's possible I'll deliver a presentation that connects with my audience. It's possible that I'll get all my facts straight. It's possible that I will deliver a presentation and nobody will throw tomatoes at me. I mean, neutral, right? Incremental change as we dream our wildest dreams. Because when we reframe the activities, the brain region ties optimism and creativity, that medial prefrontal cortex, and it helps you shift focus to possibility over threats. We have got to live in possibility, the overabundance of the possibilities that are out there, the wildest dreams we can dream. And all we have to do is change our thought. So how do we resolve this effect we're talking about? So our step would be to close that mental loop by creating a plan, a concrete plan. So you would write down your catastrophic thought and list 3 actionable steps you can take to feel more prepared or in control. So once you've identified your thought that is not serving you, and you see the feelings and vibrations that thought is causing in your body that you do not like, you reframe the narrative into something true and believable as you live in abundance, as you live in possibility. But give yourself something small on that thought ladder. So instead of, what if I forget what to say? We can create the actions that are going to supplement that feeling we want and that thought we want to have. We can create note cards with key points. We can rehearse this with somebody listening to us. We can record a practice session and then review it and see what we think and not be so critical on ourselves. The planning, the action that leads to the result you want, which is the A line and the R line at the end of the model, this reduces that sense of uncertainty that fuels this horrible sense of fear that we live in this 4th quadrant. This gives our brain a better sense of control. But you can see how you can work the model frontwards or backwards. Fill out any line. Are you getting a result that you don't like? Well, what action are you taking? Back it up to the A line to get the result. Well, what feeling are you feeling that is creating the action that's giving you the result? Okay. Well, what is the thought you're having that's creating the feeling that's creating and fueling the action that is giving you the result that you don't like? And what is the neutral circumstance that you're interpreting that's giving you the thought? And the thought is not real. So instead of thinking this, ask yourself, how would you rather feel? And then what do you have to think in order to feel that? And then when you feel that, what does that cause you to do? What is your plan now, right? Planning to get the result that you want. That's working the model backwards and forwards. Fill out a line, work it forward, work it backward. Change the thought. So we're going to look now at some bonus tools. And the first one is counterfactual thinking for resilience. So what's counterfactual thinking? This involves imagining alternative outcomes to build your resilience. So instead of fixating on the failure or the result, practice imagining how you'd recover and grow. So this is like countering the what if scenario. What if you fail? I mean, that is an option, right? It is a possibility that you go up there and you face plant. What if? How can you recover and grow? How can you embrace the fact that your thoughts and other people's thoughts about what you are interpreting as a failure, the way that's a thought, it's an opinion. Failure is not a fact. At what point do we draw the line between success and failure? Where's the line? It's totally subjective. But you have identified a thought that you fail. And it's possible something happens that, you're going to have a thought about. I failed. So what can you do instead to recover and grow and start to reframe that situation? For example, okay, if the presentation doesn't go perfectly, again, a subjective thought, I'll still learn something valuable and I can adjust for next time. Now, it might be easier just to adjust your thought, but that's hard. Getting thought work absolutely, second nature. It's taken me a long time to do that, but it's changed both ways. Because now I'm like, I don't like what I'm thinking, but this rewires your brain's threat detection system to focus on adaptability rather than catastrophe. So we talked previously about the temporal distance technique. So temporal distancing, just to remind you from last week, involves mentally placing yourself in the future and looking back at the fear with perspective. Now I'm saying this a little differently because we're specifically talking catastrophic thinking. So for example, your thought might be, this presentation will ruin my career. That is like 0 to 60 in 0.5 seconds. We don't need to do that, but we do that. Our brain does that. Just fill in the blank for yourself. How will I feel about this moment in 6 months? Is it really going to ruin your career? Or are you allowing the catastrophic thinking of quadrant 4 to take entire control of your emotional life? So ask yourself that. Think about the future and then look back. See, temporal distance reduces the emotional intensity of current fears by activating long-term thinking. We can also do this fear flip journaling practice. Now, this one I love. And again, you know me, I don't like journaling, but this one is really good. I find this really helpful. So we write our quadrant 4 fears in 2 columns. So the first column would be the catastrophic what if. So we'll go back to that example. What if I fail? The empowering piece is in column 2. So then we create the empowering what if. What if I inspire somebody? I mean, what could happen? Instead of what if I fail, what is an inspiring, empowering, abundant, potential thought you could have that is a what if? What if I inspire somebody? What if somebody's just proud that I get up there and I do this? What if one of the interns is terrified of speaking in front of people, but the fact that they watched you do it and make a mistake made them so excited to know that if you could do something like this, so could they? What if you inspire somebody? This builds cognitive flexibility, training your brain to consider multiple possibilities of abundance, a possibility out there, instead of fixating on worst case scenarios. So quadrant 4 fears may feel overwhelming, but they're entirely thought driven. And that means you have the power to change them at any time using the model. By applying thought work and the model and intentional rewiring, you can interrupt, you can disrupt the catastrophic thinking loop and reclaim control over your mind, your body, and your emotional life. All right, I want to just take a few brief moments to talk about the action-based solutions that might be helpful to us. So fear and catastrophic thinking thrive on paralysis and overthinking. The key to breaking this cycle is moving into action, doing. We're always talking about how movement kickstarts your brain. So planning action, taking action, even if it's small, seemingly insignificant step. Because action is another disruptor. Action disrupts the thought-feeling loop and shifts your focus from feeling helpless to feeling powerful. Action-based solution would be reframing with gratitude. Now, we hear a lot about gratitude and, that's one of those overused words. But when we turn fear into growth, gratitude matters because when fear narrows your focus, it makes it hard to see opportunities in challenges. But gratitude counters this by broadening your perspective and activating brain regions tied to optimism, emotional regulation, and connection. Gratitude activates the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate emotional responses and quiets the brain's fixation on fear. Fear and gratitude cannot coexist because they rely on opposing neuro pathways. Did you hear that? Fear and gratitude cannot coexist because they rely on opposing neural pathways. Practicing gratitude effectively turns down the volume on fear and vice versa. So what can you do? Well, when you feel like you're in the grip of fear, you can pause and ask, what's one thing I'm grateful for in this situation? Now, this isn't cheeseball, be grateful, gratitude, blah, blah. No, you're going to counter your fear. You're going to turn down the dial on fear by finding one thing you can truly, again, true and believable, that your brain will buy, be grateful for in the situation. This isn't bullshit fluff. This is countering fear. Okay. A lot of these words get thrown around, but nobody explains why. Why is gratitude so important? This is why gratitude is so important, because gratitude and fear cannot coexist. You will know fear when you identify truthfully and believably what you can be grateful for in a situation where you are overcome with fear. So instead of what if this presentation goes badly or what if I fail? Why don't we think about being grateful for the chance to use your skills that you've worked so hard for? Share your ideas, practice your skills, screw up and see what you can learn from it. I mean, how many times do I have to say, go out there and mess it up? Because that's how we grow and learn. We shift the focus to growth. Even if this is uncomfortable, it's teaching me resilience in high pressure situations. That's a reframe, right? We reframe fear as a sign of growth every time, and gratitude every time, because fear signals that you're stepping out of your comfort zone. Gratitude anchors you to the truth that this moment is shaping a stronger, more capable future version of yourself. And again, you're going to meet that future self soon. This is the work you're doing to set your future self up for success. And gratitude, it's not a feel-good platitude. It's a neuroscience-backed tool for emotional resilience, thought management, and abundance. And it is the absolute kryptonite to fear. So let's quickly talk about gratitude and your body. So gratitude physically activates the parasympathetic nervous system. This induces the calm and counters the fight or flight response. This enhances our heart-brain coherence, but it also improves our focus, our resilience, and our emotional regulation. And the idea of the scarcity to abundant thinking is also very important, because gratitude is the bridge between them. Gratitude shifts your mindset from scarcity, there's not enough, scarcity thinking, to abundant thinking. I have enough and I can create more. The scarcity mindset, it hyper focuses on what you want. This activates your survival brain circuit that block creativity and block sound decision making. Why? Because your brain is convinced you don't have enough to live or to feed your family or to turn the lights on. That's not true, but that's what you're activating when you're living in scarcity mindset. So when you're living in an abundant mindset, this redirects focus to sufficiency and opportunity. Gratitude in this way, it quiets the survival circuit that are freaking out that you're not going to have enough food and you're going to get fired, blah, blah, blah. And it activates the default innovation network, fostering the big picture thinking. Abundance isn't about having more. It's about seeing what you already have and being grateful. Gratitude trains your brain to focus on what's working, what's important. This creates space for that possibility of your wildest dream. So just some simple stuff. Do that gratitude journal. Write down 3 specific things that you're grateful for every day to practice. Instead of, I'm grateful for my family, why don't you write something more like, I'm grateful for the laugh I shared with my partner over dinner, because it's more specific and it gives you a way to counter that sort of vivid, imaginary, catastrophic nightmare that your brain is conjuring for you. And you have a vivid, happy thought about the laughter that you shared with so-and-so over dinner. It strengthens the positive neural pathways, which is increasing your emotional resilience. You can also visualize your gratitude, close your eyes and lean into that idea of vividly imagining the moment of deep gratitude. And you can engage in all the senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? That activates the brain's reward circuitry, creating a lasting sort of state. You can express your gratitude to other people. Now, that's hard sometimes, but letting somebody know you're grateful for them is powerful, and it's a gift to them too. Sharing your appreciation with someone who has positively impacted you is going to also boost your own oxytocin level and enhance your trust and connection. And it's going to do the same for somebody else. And we also can reframe our challenges with gratitude. When we're facing difficulty, let's ask ourselves, what is this teaching me? Or how can I grow from this? For an example, this challenge is helping me build resilience and adaptability. Gratitude is a transformative practice. Gratitude doesn't just make you feel better. It changes your brain. It rewires your mindset, and it fosters your resilience, and it turns you into a powerful, fierce badass. Yeah, it does. So look, gratitude isn't proof of what's already perfect. It's the evidence of your capacity to create abundance and possibility in every thinking situation. So throw out the I failed or I'm gonna fail, and let's start dreaming your wildest dreams. You can also do some future self visualization. Now, this is just acting as if you've already overcome whatever the challenge is. And this is a positive tool that primes your brain to believe in your ability to succeed. So just by imagining you're navigating fear successfully, you activate the same neural pathways as if you were actually doing it, which increases confidence and reduces anxiety. Now, again, this is a counter move. When you are living in vivid nightmare rumination, what if, you are seeing it in vivid color, right? You are feeling the feelings of fear that are vibrating through your body, keeping you up at night. But what if you start to visualize, imagining yourself successfully navigating the situation in vivid color? That is going to activate the same neural pathways, but in the positive way, as if you're actually doing it. And then you'll have the same feelings, but in a positive direction. You can't always control the situation, but you can always control how you reset the situation, what you think about the situation, and how you feel. Calming your body reminds you that fear doesn't have the final say. You have the final say. Your thoughts do not have to control you. Your thoughts do not have to identify the feelings you have to live within. You can change your thoughts and change your feelings. You teach your brain that fear isn't the boss. You're the boss. Like the boss, right? Fear is just a signal from your brain. And it's a signal that you're stepping into something important, potentially an opportunity for growth. So I challenge you to choose some of these tools and apply them to the fear that you may be facing this week, because every step that you take builds the neural pathways for resilience and for confidence. So don't forget, fear thrives in the shadows of the unknown. And when you let your mind run rampant, your brain will fill in any gaps that are unknown with worst case scenarios. Your brain latches onto uncertainty, magnifies it, and convinces you that the worst case scenario is inevitable. It's a lie. It doesn't mean to lie to you. It's just how it's made. But this is what's happening. Fear is only as powerful as the story that you attach to it, to the thought the fear is generating. When you name it, when you challenge it, and when you take those small intentional steps forward, you disrupt its hold and reclaim control over your narrative. So here's your homework for the week. I'm challenging you to identify one catastrophic what if thought. Just one. Write it down exactly as it plays out in your mind. Then flip the script. Rewrite it as a neutral scenario. So for example, what if this presentation goes terribly? We're going to flip it. This presentation is an opportunity to share my ideas. Rewrite it as a best case scenario. For example, what if this presentation leads to new opportunities and recognition for my work? What if this opportunity inspires somebody who's terrified to speak in public? See, every time that fear resurfaces, remind yourself of your new intentional narrative. It's going to take some time. You're going to screw it up. You're not going to remember in the moment. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it. Watch how your brain begins to look for evidence that aligns with stability instead of panic. So you can rewrite your own story. You engage your prefrontal cortex when you do this. This is the decision-making center of your brain. By consciously choosing a new thought that serves you, you override the automatic fear-based responses generated by your limbic system. This is where you step into that role. You get in the plane and you get up there and you look down and you observe, not react. You observe your thoughts. You observe how they're creating feelings within you. You can decide, do I like this? Does this serve me? And you can change it at any time. Intentionally choosing thoughts and feelings that serve you. And you reframe the fear. Instead of treating fear as a stop sign, you can view it as a compass. Fear shows up where growth is possible. It's a signal that you're stepping into something meaningful. If you can see through the fog of the fear. See, fear is not your enemy. It's simply a vibration in your body. What you do with it is what defines your result. All right, my friend. If this episode resonated with you at all, I hope that you will take a moment to share it with somebody who needs these tools. We are all navigating our own version of fear. And sometimes just that simple reminder from a friend that fear is not the boss of me can be life-changing. And also don't forget, if you are interested in figuring out what is sabotaging your success, run over and grab my Thought Saboteur quiz. It's free and it's designed to uncover patterns that are holding you back and give you the tools to shift them. So you can find it at charliewarnescoaching.com/quiz. And here's my final takeaway. Fear doesn't have to hold the pen. You are the author of your own story. You get to write it and you get to rewrite it with intention, with curiosity, and a belief that the best case scenario is not only possible, but likely. So move away from the belief and thought process of scarcity and move into thinking abundantly. All right. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next week.